9.9 FM and AM 630, Washington's Mall, WMAL.
Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall.
105.9 FM.
At AM 630.
WMAL.
Good morning, everybody. 6:37 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. It's Brian Wilson, and we're very happy to announce today that we have a new member to our team officially now. He's been here actually for a couple of weeks, but Larry O'Connor now officially the new member of our team here on Mornings on the Mall. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
And on this auspicious day, we are pleased also to be joined by our old friend Major Garrett, who's of course with the National Journal, but one of the smartest guys in all of Washington when it comes to talking about politics. And you're here on a very important day.
I am. Good morning, and I'm just astonished and happy and elated to be here as part of broadcast history.
You know, Major, you didn't have to wear a tuxedo, though. That's a bit much, but boy, you look sharp.
Thank you.
Are you getting into the whole Bond
thing? I'm bringing it in the tuxedo.
Because the Bond movie is opening this weekend?
Indeed.
Is that why you're doing that?
And I got text message reviews from two buddies who went to it last night. They said 10 plus. Said absolutely outstanding.
But just for the record, Major has never been shaken or stirred. He's a bourbon guy.
Absolutely.
Oh, we have something in common.
No
there.
ice, ladies and
Wait a
gentlemen.
minute, now, wild turkey or
no
not?
ice. I'm actually Jim Beam Black.
Really?
For the price, it's the best bourbon in America.
There we go. Well,
this is news you can use.
I
people.
never really thought we'd be going this direction, but here we are. Okay.
Nothing fancy. And not on the rocks either, straight up.
So, Major, what have you been up to lately?
I'm playing tennis all week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
A lot of time in the jacuzzi. Had a couple of massages.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet. So, listen, there's a little bit of a hangover for the country after the election with all of the attention and all the. But there's got to be for you guys in the media, and you were basically stalking the campaign.
Sure.
What's it like for you after this? Are you feeling the same sort of letdown?
Look, there's kind of a post-election syndrome you go through, because down the stretch you keep saying to yourself internally, God, I can't wait for this to get over. And then when it's over, you're like, oh my God, it's over. What am I going to do?
Well, no, it doesn't. It's not over. But as soon as it's over, there's new things to talk about.
There are that's right. There's always something to talk about. The conversation in American politics, for better or for worse, never ends. But an election is a turnstile moment. You are on one side of it, and then you're on the other side of it, and then you draw a lot of conclusions. Some you can overdraw, and some you can miss, and we're trying to sort through that now. One thing I want to do is let everyone know this is, and indeed you're making history today. Well, National Journal's making history today. For the first time ever in our publication's history, our entire 60-page magazine, which sifts every bit of data, exit poll data, every result, House and Senate, behind-the-scenes stories, all that is free on the nationaljournal.com website.
Wow.
We've never done that before. That's always been a subscriber-only, close hold sort of commerce product for us, and because of the digital importance of our publication, everything is free. You go to nationaljournal.com. I've got the cover story, sort of explaining what it all means. And we're looking towards the fiscal cliff and the second term for President Obama and his administration. But there's a tremendous amount of stuff. It's just great. So I urge people who are curious, go to nationaljournal.com. There's a lot of stuff there.
All right. So now, having said all that, what does it all mean?
A couple of things. I wrote the cover story, and I gave it the headline, The Hinge of History. And I said in the lead of the story, okay, Mr. President, you said there was a big choice to be made. And after this election, choices will have to be made, and big decisions will have to be announced and brought to fore. That's not rhetoric. That's actually true. And you're going to have to prove capable of deciding what those decisions are, leading the country toward them, and making compromises with Congress. Because, Mr. President, Republicans now know, and Mitch McConnell knows this better than anyone, your 2008 election wasn't a fluke. But guess what? Neither was the 2010 congressional snapback. Neither were flukes. They are both now legitimized by the voters, as I say, forged on the anvil of the ballot box. These are real things, and they have to deal with each other as real entities, political and institutional and legislative. And that means the president's going to have to budge. And I've talked to a lot of Senate Democrats, a lot of people on K Street, people who expect him to be of a mind to budge. Now, he's going to have a statement today laying down a marker on raising taxes on the wealthy. John Boehner put out his marker earlier this week. I say in the piece, and I think this is really true, the most important thing to watch in the next week or so is not the deal. The deal's not going to get done the next week. The thing to watch is how quiet things are. The quieter things are, the more likely there is to be a deal.
Because things are going on behind the scenes.
Yes. And because there's a difference between striking a pose and laying down a marker. Laying down a marker is just here's where we're beginning on the negotiations. Striking a pose is every day saying, this is where I'm not budging, and blah, 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 and creating a lot of storm and drang. I predict we will see less of that and and more laying down of markers and then the quiet behind-the-scenes negotiations. Because, look, the fiscal cliff is real. It's not imaginary. And I write in the magazine, Washington has to ask itself, does it really want to, for the first time ever, in a premeditated fashion, impose a recession on this country? That's the question.
That's exactly what will happen, too.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Not an outside force, not something we can't expect. No, by will and inaction, force a recession on the people of this country.
That's right.
That's what this is all about.
And move unemployment up probably 2 points, if not more.
Increase poverty.
Yep.
Drive down middle class wages, and whatever you want to call it in terms of job gains, anemic, whatever. But there have been some.
And not to mention what it will do to national security and defense and all that. Yeah, I mean,
right. And what it will do in our own sense of posture, competing and dealing with big issues on the international stage.
So, Major, you hear some grumbling over on the Hill from some of the conservative caucus, as they like to call themselves, that there's not a whole lot of faith in John Boehner going into this lame duck session and having these critical negotiations. You've got Paul Ryan. He's now a national figure. He looms large coming in, continuing as the chairman of the Budget Committee. Are you hearing anything about a potential challenge to the current leadership of the House?
No, I don't expect a leadership challenge. And if one were to suddenly pop up, it would not be long lasting.
Really?
I would say if there's one place that there might be a legitimate challenge to someone who is thinking and has an idea of moving up in the congressional leadership generally, it would be John Cornyn wants to be the Senate Minority Whip.
And he really got hit because he was responsible for the
for two
Senate
cycles.
re-election.
For 2 cycles, he was the chairman of the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. And I have heard rumblings among conservatives, wait a minute, he had 2 bad cycles. Now, not all of it was his fault, but still, we're going to reward him with the second most important position in the Republican leadership. There might be a challenge there.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation with Major Garrett from National Journal. Right now, it's 6:44 on WMAL.
105.9 FM and AM 630. Washington's Mall. WMAL. Where Washington comes to talk.
We're back here in studio with Major Garrett. This is an honor, Brian Wilson, to have Major
A day of
Garrett
history. I'm just happy to be here.
come
No. The honor is ours, Major,
Really?
because we have. I mean, I'm no kidding. I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
I have tremendous respect for you as a reporter, and your analysis of what's going on politically is very sharp. So enough of that. We got just about a minute and a half left here. I want to get down to brass tacks. Look, Congress is basically where it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, there's more Senate Democrats, and that's not insignificant, and there are slightly fewer House Republicans.
But the House is not going to budge on some of this stuff. And if unless all sides come together and say we got to give a little here to meet in the middle, ain't nothing going to happen.
Well, again, I don't want to be so self-referential, but in my piece I say the Speaker said we can do more revenue in the context of tax reform. And I said, now that leaves a lot of room for interpretation, especially if tax reform takes on a taffy-like quality, that it can be, sort of pulled in a lot of different directions and defined in a lot of different ways. That creates space, okay, for the Speaker to say, Mr. President, we want you to lead. We can have new revenue. We can do it in the context of tax reform. That creates flexibility. It's a small crack in the dam, it seems to me. And we'll see what the President's temperament and tone is today. If it's quieter, that will be a good sign that there is some possibility of resolving this. Because, look, what Patrice just talked about, the market has 2 straight days of sell-offs.
Right.
The market is selling on our legislative democracy's ability to confront this problem. That's a very bad sign.
I mean, what you're saying is the market doesn't have confidence they can resolve this.
No, it doesn't. And that's there's capital at stake, real and political.
In a way, if the market was sort of buying and building up leading up to the election, and now they're selling off, that kind of sends a signal that they were expecting and hoping that Romney would win.
They might have been, but reality is
we know,
unfortunate at times.
We can finish that sentence. Yeah. All right, most importantly, and honestly, I mean, from my perspective, this is the biggest thing that you can bring to the table, Major Garrett. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we've got Kurt Loder coming in to talk about the new Bond movie. You just said you were getting reports about the film.
That is sensational.
You're pumped up for it,
I am,
right?
Definitely.
But looking back now, I mean, this is 50 years of Bond. Who's your favorite James Bond?
There's no one better than Sean Connery. There just can't be.
Really?
But I thought George Lazenby was a great Bond for the one movie he did.
Wow.
And remember this.
An obscure reference.
But remember this. He quit the franchise because he assumed that the Bond movie franchise was dying.
Yeah.
He quit it. He had a long-term contract. He went to go work with Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee died. And then Roger Moore took a franchise that people thought was going to die. and he kept it alive. I won't say Roger Moore's the best Bond, but I think he's the most important because he kept the franchise going.
Wow.
He knows his Bond.
He knows everything.
Quickly, favorite Bond babe.
Oh, wow, that's really difficult to say.
Too many to
name.
All
yes.
right. All right. But certainly not Judi Dench. All right. Thanks, Major.
6:53.